Now you did it. Are you completely insane? He's back. He, who must not be named. The man, the myth, the only guy in Ocala to eat his own weight in fried pickles. Twice. Now, you asked for it. Sorta. Live and in person. It's Tom Schmitz.
Welcome back to Ocala Talks with Tom Schmitz on a Friday morning. Going to be a warm 72 degrees today. Chance of rain moving in about 3 o'clock this afternoon, which aggravates a guy in a pair of slacks and a golf shirt when he's got a tee time at 12:30. I don't know who that is, Tom Schmitz, but I'm just saying it's a little aggravating. Joining me in studio now from the 0 Hour Life Center are Robert Cooper and Steve Blank. We're going to discuss the Recovery Community Organization. Steve, Robert, good morning to you.
Good morning.
Hey, Tom, how are you?
Good. Steve, been a while since I've seen you, and last time I seen you, you were wearing a different name tag.
I was. Yeah, things have changed. New year, new job, and I'm really excited to be part of 0 Hour Life Center. And still.
Tell us a little bit about 0 Hour Life Center.
Sure. I'll let Rob do more of the talking, but I actually met 0 Hour Life Center when I was at the centers, which is where I came from. And basically, 0 Hour Life Center is a recovery community organization that the primary purpose is to provide recovery support to individuals who are seeking help and maybe kind of struggling with, not knowing what to do. The organization's made up of 51% of people who are in recovery. So I met the qualifications, so they let me in the door. I'm a person in long-term recovery. It's been 31 years, and it's really been a big part of kind of what my life has been. So, but we are providing services here in Ocala and Marion County, and also in Citrus County and in Hernando County. So we're in a few different counties and getting ready to really kind of move things along here in Marion County and Ocala.
Robert, when we talk about recovery community organizations, tell people exactly what that means, because people think they have in their mind that, so this is a rehab center or something. Tell people what actually a recovery community organization is.
No, recovery community organization is, like Steve said, is peer-led and peer-driven. We don't do clinical. We really do recovery support service. So what we do, we help bridge the gap for people that's getting out of treatment, getting out of jail. Because when someone gets out of jail and treatment, there are some barriers that they have. So what we do, we connect the dots. We partner, because a big key word is community. We can't do it all, so we like to bridge. We like to have the partnerships with different agencies to help someone to maintain long-term recovery.
The toughest part for me, and look, let's put it all on the table. Everybody knows I'm a recovering addict of over 20 years.
Right.
I hate cocaine, but the smell of it was fantastic.
Oh yeah.
When I got out of jail, and I did my time in jail, I was at Alburris Correctional Institute in Georgia. I know all about electronic doors and some big guy named Bubba telling you when you can do something, when you can't do something. Right. And that, that's the deputy that's running the jail and everything in small town South Georgia. But when I got out, the first thing my support group, the first thing I did, and I'm sure this is everybody's story, my support group were the same people I were doing drugs with before I went to jail.
Right.
And that's who you got to get away from, and that's the kind of thing you guys help with.
Right. So that's the main thing that we want people to understand, that when they come to a recovery community organization like 0 Hour Life Center, it's really peer-led. So if someone's starting over, we use our lived experience to help them to achieve long-term recovery. We don't tell them how to do recovery. We just use our experience and say, hey, you may be struggling with this, but this is what I've been through, and you can get over this barrier to maintain long-term recovery. So that's the beauty of it. And we do support groups peer-to-peer. We do some other things. We use this cool tool called Recovery Capital Assessment, where we look at people internal and external. We look at their community, if they're sober-friendly. We look at if they need employment. And that's some of the things that you need to attain long-term recovery.
One of the worst parts for a lot of people coming out of programs or coming out of jail is now you have this tainted reputation of he's a drug addict or she's a drug addict. I don't want to trust them with jobs where money's involved because they may rob the register to take the money to get more drugs. And so finding a job is one of the biggest obstacles that people have to get over.
Right, and that's one thing. As a recovery community organization, we want to break the stigma of people looking at people that have a substance use disorder as bad people. We're humans. We're someone's daughter. We're
sick. We're sick. We got disease.
Right, and we're someone's son, someone's father, someone's brother. So, and as a recovery community organization, we want employers to reach out to us, talk to us, and let people that have substance use disorder have a career.
Steve, do you think with the opioid crisis and the way it's hit and the way people are now understanding that with the opioid crisis, for the first time, I think people are understanding drug use is not something, because with crack and with powder cocaine and with heroin, people were thinking, that's just people, the dregs of life that are making decisions to party and then they get caught up in it. Whereas the opioid crisis were soccer moms and dads that coach baseball teams that may have had knee surgery or shoulder surgery or a wisdom tooth taken out, and then they got hooked on opioids. Maybe it's changing how people are looking at drug addiction now, because they know that it's people that we've always said it's your next door neighbor. It's normal people. It's not the same people that are doing drugs now and are addicted to drugs now were the same people in the 70s and 80s that were addicted. They were your next door neighbors. You just didn't want to think that about your next door neighbors in. Has the opioid crisis, one of the silver linings of the opioid crisis might be that people are now associating drugs as a disease instead of just the dregs of life doing it?
I think it's unfortunate that it's taken this long, and it took the opioid crisis for something like that to happen. But I do think that it has kind of broadened the spectrum as far as what's more, I guess, people who are really come from mainstream society, like business people and professionals or moms who maybe, or a kid who went and had a tooth pulled and is prescribed, a prescription of 30 Vicodin, and when you can't get your Vicodin anymore,
Advil ain't cutting it.
No. Right. So yeah, it has really kind of helped with that. But, the flip side of it is, we work really closely with Ocala Police Department and Ocala Fire Rescue. There's a lot of initiatives that are going on in regards to overdose response. And these people that are, overdosing and dying in and around Ocala and Marion County, they may have started, a lot of them may have started with painkillers and pills and things like that. And 10 years ago, it's probably been about 10 years now since they came through and really made a sweep to close all the pill mills. Yeah, so they closed the pill mills, but they didn't really have an answer for what was going to happen for all those people that were jonesing when they still needed to use.
Do you see the parallel, Steve, because of your career where you were with mental health and all, do you see the parallels of how when the state number of years ago came and closed all the asylums and everything for people who had mental issues, but they didn't have a plan. They just like, we're closing. Now you're on the streets.
Oh, absolutely.
I see the same parallels here.
Mm-hmm. It is, and yeah, you're right. Prior to being in Florida, working really a lot closely with more mental health, but even here in Florida, it's really a shame to see the gaps that exist for individuals living with mental illness, because when they come out of the places like the state hospitals, there's nowhere for them to go. So they're in our backyards and they're over, waiting to get fed by the homeless coalition on Thursday nights or whatever. But there's no in between. There's no transitional housing. There's not a lot of resources for them. And I would really challenge the state of Florida and the individuals, connected to those causes to step up and start making a change, not only with addiction and mental health, addiction, but also with mental health too, because it's all intertwined. You really don't find people out there right now who are really just mental health or just addicted. Right. When you're out there and you're using and you're literally losing your mind, it starts to become intertwined. So
non-reality becomes reality.
Right.
I told you off the air, and I'll say it on the air, I justified it because I have a mental health condition, ADHD. I was diagnosed when I was 6 years old in the early 70s. I was one of the first kids that, he wasn't just a bad kid, there was actually something wrong with him. And so I've been Ritalin, on and off Ritalin all my life. When I was in my 20s, didn't have insurance or everything. Well, there's an alternative to Ritalin that for a person with ADHD, because it's a chemical imbalance that helps balance you and level you out. And believe it or not, cocaine does that because it's a drug that runs people 90 miles an hour unless you're already running 90 miles an hour, and then it has the opposite effect. So I always justified it. Well, I'm got a mental health issue, so I'm doing cocaine as a self-medicating. How many stories do you hear like that, Robert? That I don't have a problem, I'm just self-medicating because I don't have the option of going and getting pharmaceuticals.
We hear a lot of stories like that, and and I'm in long-term recovery, and I should justify my addiction by saying the same thing. When I work long hours, I'm a functioning addict. I used to use that term, functioning addict. But there's no such thing as a functioning addict. An addict's an addict. So, but by us sitting here telling our story and someone listening right now, that may bring someone to long-term recovery. That may bring someone to recovery. So we need to talk more about recovery and share our stories and get out the closet and let people know that it's all right to be in long-term recovery.
So what are you saying? You're coming out of the closet, Rob?
No.
you always when I was once I got put in jail, I got caught selling cocaine, but I wasn't selling cocaine. I was just giving it to other people and taking their money so I could get mine for free. That's basically what I was doing. It's a terrible thing to be a drug dealer and do drugs. It's not smart, But people would once I got outed that I was a drug addict, then people go, well, we knew. We just didn't want to say anything. And it was real hush hush, and it was something that was taboo and nobody talked about. And I think it's time. And I think the opioid crisis with it, once again, it took a very long time, but with professionals and moms and dads, with it being in the forefront of the communities that people think are above drug abuse. And now you see they're not. I think it's being talked about more. And that's the only way we're going to get on top of this. Right. We're not going to, Greg Graham, the late Greg Graham, who had Lexi walk yesterday, his famous words were, we're not going to arrest our way out of this problem.
Yeah, we're obviously, as many people, we sorely miss him, but we've been working with Mike Balkin, Chief Balkin, and he is as passionate about it. He brings
100%.
His own, piece to this puzzle, and he is absolutely dedicated to work towards making some changes. The one thing I wanted to say too, Tom, is for recovery community organizations, 0 Hour Life Center, a big part of what we do is we don't necessarily try and dictate how you're going to get yourself together. We're not there to jam 12 steps down your throat or tell you that God is the way to go or anything like that. We're there to say whatever works for you, whatever you're most comfortable with. So if it's spirituality, if it's the 12 steps, if it's through other types of recovery support, we represent all pathways to recovery. What we know now is that there is more than just one way to get yourself together and change your life. Everything is not for everybody. So we're kind of like the the Baskin Robbins of recovery. Like 31 flavors, whatever there is. So
I got very lucky. My willpower is pretty good, and I have my best friend who's no longer with us, Alan Burt, Dino. He is the greatest human I've ever known in my life. And he sat me down about 3 weeks after I got out of jail. Because once I got out of jail, I was like, well, who's got a line?
Right.
I'm ready.
Yeah.
So I get out there, he sits me down, he goes, look here, bro. We've been friends since we're 14. I've picked you up out of prison 3 different times, jail 3 different times. I've been with you through girlfriends, all kind of stuff. We know each other intimately. If you don't stop, I'm never associate with you again because I can't do this to me. I can't do this to my family. You got to make a decision. How important is our relationship? And his relationship to me, and I'm as heterosexual as it gets, but the most meaningful relationship I've ever had in my life was with Alan Burt. And here he was telling me, I told this in his eulogy, here he was telling me, if you're going to continue down this path, I gots to go.
Right.
And that was my way, not the electronic door, not a Glock 9mm to my head. Now, they helped the decision making, but it was this one part. Wasn't a 12-step program, wasn't Jesus, wasn't God. It was my best friend telling me, as your best friend, I'm fixing to go because that's what I have to do. Right. And that's what you mean by there's not a cookie cutter way to battle addiction.
And we need to hear those things from people who care about us. And most of the time what I know is people may need to turn their backs for a little while to keep their own sanity. But if they're truly there for you, they'll be there for you when you come back around. And I think that's a message that I want to put out to people that are struggling with that, is that, don't hold it against people that maybe have kind of kicked you to the curb for now, because we do some really raunchy things to people when we're out there.
Horrible.
Ripping and running. So we kind of get all attituded up about folks kind of, treating us a certain way, but they'll come back around. And it's really important. The other thing I wanted to say is really important for families to seek help and get the support that they need, because even though they're not the ones that are using, it's really important that you understand that you're part of that equation, and you're going through life trying to scratch your head and figure out, what did we do wrong and all that kind of stuff, and it really takes a toll on you. So there's help for people out there, families, loved ones, to to address their part of the situation also. But we really just wanted to kind of, I guess, spread the word of recovery and let folks know about 0 Hour. I know we work closely with the courts, with the police, with the city of Ocala, with the centers, with live streams and organizations here, Perspectives, all different types of organizations. But we just wanted to come in and kind of talk about what's happening.
Speaking with from 0 Hour Life Center, Robert Cooper and Steve Blank. Robert, how important to the process of a recovery community organization is just the sharing of an individual story with everybody, with other people? How important is just telling about the mile you walked in the addiction shoes? How important is that to overall recovery, not only the person telling the story, but the people that are hearing the story?
It's important because you're giving hope to the hopeless. By telling your story, you're letting someone know, hey, I've been there, I've done that, but you can recover. And the key things you want people to know, they can recover. Because a lot of people feel like that their life is over and they can't get another life. And they are so damaged by the stuff that they have done, or they're ashamed by the stuff they've done. And once they come to the door of 0 Hour Life Center or work with one of our coaches and hear their story, it gives them hope. And it gives them and it gives them a sense of self-worth, that they can maintain recovery and they can do this.
When I got out, I got a Dear John letter while I was in divorce from my first wife. She sent me a letter while I was in jail that I'm out. Moved from Florida. We lived in Florida town. Moved from there, joined the Army, and went to Washington, as far away from me as she could get. I got out. Here I am, 30 years old, having to live with my mother for the first time since I was 17. And she's one of these women that, you live in my house, my rules. And here I am, 30 years old, and she's trying to tell me I got to be home by 10 o'clock at night, And I didn't have a car. Didn't have it. The world looked bleak, like I was going to. If I'd have had this kind of situation, a recovery organization community, where I could have went and said, look, here's my issue, and people could have helped me along the way, I think that would have, I probably would have went right back to looking for a line of cocaine like I did when I first got out. Right. And it took somebody slapping me upside the head saying, this is it, Right. But those stories, just your story, how you told me you did the same thing I did. You were a functioning addict. You were like, look, I'm doing it because I go to work. I'm not living off society. I go to work. I earn a paycheck every day. Leave me alone. I know what I'm doing. I got this.
Right.
And you never have it.
No.
You never have it.
You never have it. And the thing is, too, is once someone comes to the recovery community organization, they can get involved. It's really not just you come in there to get support. Eventually, we want you to be involved. We want you to do things within the recovery community organization, because everyone, that's the big thing about recovery community organization, is they're part of the family, and we're trying to spread it. They're all over Florida. So they're really all over the United States recovery community organization, and really they're bridging that gap, because everyone can't get into treatment, everyone can't get into detox, and everyone don't need treatment detox. They just need someone to say, hey, come on, let's get you here, let's get you a job, let's get you a car, and break down these barriers to maintain long-term recovery. The
good end of my story is that was 1999. Here we are in 2021. 22 years later, I own my own business. I've been on the radio in Ocala for the better part of 10 years. I have on my speed dial, and they will pick up within a few rings or call me right back, the mayor, the chief of police, the sheriff, all the county commissioners, all the city council people. So from a guy who was doing 7 grams of cocaine a day, that's what I was doing, 7 grams a day, 22 years later, to have a successful business, be a public figure on the radio, and have the people who run the community that will take my call and will listen to sometimes my opinion and give credence to it, shows that if you put your mind to it, you can come back from any addiction.
Yeah. Yes.
You can.
You
and
can.
I'm living proof of it, because 22 years ago, I was a scumbag who, if I needed $100 and your purse was open, well, that $100 was in my pocket because I had to go get some powder.
Yeah. So, yeah, and that's the stories that a lot of people need to hear, because it gives hope. Because sometimes when you're out there and you're in that mud, you think you can't get out of it, and you can recover.
Oh, my first job was digging footings for a concrete company. So my first job in my recovery literally was digging ditches.
Right.
For Perry Construction, Gainesville. I helped build the tank farm, helped pour the concrete that built the tank farm behind North Florida Regional. I worked in the mud, in the cold, but you did what you got to do.
Right.
I went from general manager of a restaurant where I was making $90,000 a year to digging ditches for a concrete company.
Right.
But you got to do what you got to do.
You got to do what you got to do. Yeah.
So I'll just share this quick story with you. I was part of a meeting last night that young man that I'm proud of, named John, shared this TED Talk, and he spoke about the focus was really to do with remaining task-oriented and not remaining ego-oriented, because when your ego, especially when our egos get in the way and we start thinking about, well, I could be this or I could be that, you start to lose sight and you start to kind of self-sabotage yourself. So the message was really to keep yourself focused on what the task at hand is and what those steps are that you need to do that. So for me, that has really been the key, is to really, whenever I can, get out of my own way, stay focused on the task, and let not my ego drive the ship, because when I do that, I'm in trouble.
Right.
If I let my ego drive the ship, we'd all be in trouble. It's the one, and you always, every addict comes up with their one little saying that they do to get them, to help them along, like not today or something. Like mine was from the Kris Kringle story, believe it or not, that we watched as kids. Just put one foot in front of the other, and soon you'll be walking across the floor.
Right.
Because that's what recovery is. It's one step at a time.
Right.
Robert, how can people find out about this great organization?
You can follow us on Facebook, Instagram. You can get us at www.zerohourlifecenter.org, or you can call us at 352-765-4943. And we'll be glad to speak with you, explain more, get you involved with the recovery community organization. And we love to meet people where they are. So if you're still in your active addiction, that don't stop us. We will find you the help, support, and get you to recovery. But
very good. Hey guys, thanks for coming in, and we should do this more often, because
we'd like to come back a bit.
People need to hear stories like this. They need to know that recovery is a real thing, and there's 3 examples of it right here within 25 feet of each other.
Right. Yep.
We're social distanced.
Yeah, absolutely.
But there's 3 examples, and all 3 very different stories, but all 3 stories that have a lot of similarities as well.
Yep.
Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thanks, Tom.
all right, thank you.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, it is Dumb Crook Friday. Speaking of addictions and the things you'll do to get your fix and everything, we'll have that coming up later in the show. Dumb Crook Friday, right here on 1370 AM, 96.3 M. We're 96.3 FM. We're coming to you live from the palatial studios of WOCA Radio, just outside the food court entrance to the Paddock Mall, on a sunny Friday afternoon. I hope it stays sunny. I got golf to play about 12:30. I don't want to, let the rain come in about 5:30, ruin somebody's, date night or something. Don't ruin my oh, wait, I shouldn't say that. We'll be right back after this timeout.
Broadcasting from the Paddock Mall Studios, this is WOCA, Ocala, Gainesville, The Villages, 1370 AM, 96.3 FM, The Source.
Joe Biden unveils plans Thursday for fighting COVID-19 and injecting $1.9 trillion into the U.S. economy. But already his first 100 days agenda is overshadowed by the Trump impeachment trial. Critics are calling the expenditure of $2 trillion a wish list of social programs that the left has been trying to advance for 30 years. That's a quote from Trump economist Stephen Moore. John Earl Sullivan, who is a supporter of Antifa, BLM, and the leader of Insurgents USA, is arrested and indicted in Utah.
It's time for revolution.
His arrest came after he was caught on video instigating violence on Capitol Hill and admitting that he posed as a Trump supporter during the Capitol Hill riot on January 6th. 52-year-old Corey Johnson, a drug trafficker sentenced to die for 7 murders in Virginia in 1992, was executed Thursday night in Indiana. This is USA Radio News.
Balance of Nature's fruits and vegetables in a capsule, changing the world one life at a time.
The product that you have given me here is, as far as I'm concerned, sent to me from heaven. I love it a great deal. It's hard to find any